Character of the week. Vampires. The mosquitoes in the underworld. No, seriously, vampirism is one of the oldest myths amongst monster lore. Writer Roy Thomas and artist Gil Kane decided to combine their talents and create Morbius, which is today's character week. Morbius, the living vampire. Michael Morbius, born in Greece, had a rare blood disease. He was a biochemist, and when he found out that the disease that he had that's actually going to end up killing him, he was desperate to find a cure for it. One of the things he ended up doing was he took aspects of a vampire bat and some type of electricity and ended up a freak accident and becoming the living vampire. Now, unlike other vampires, he doesn't have the same weaknesses like, wooden stakes to the heart or silver or garlic, issues with daylight, crosses, stuff like that. That doesn't, holy water, none of that effect. He was gifted with the abilities of, let's say, most of the vampire bats. He couldn't fly per se. Well, he allegedly can't fly. His bones were hollowed, so he ended up like riding wind currents or gliding or sky gliding. He has sonar and night vision. Also, unfortunately, he has the abilities of a vampire bat to need to feast on blood. Now, he started off as a villain, as an antagonist, because let's be real, no one drinks blood is a good person. At the very beginning, he almost killed his fiance. He did kill his best friend. He tried to kill himself, but then he ended up surviving the drowning. He was saved by sailors, but then at the end of the night, he ended up feasting on them, the entire crew. He needs to feed to live, and he hates that. He ended up having a run-in with Spider-Man, of all people, who at the time was also trying to find a cure for his Spider-Man-ism. Growing two pairs of arms. I guess it was freak accidents going around this time of year. Because comics. He ended up having a run-in with Spider-Man and Kurt Connors and the Lizard upon finding out that something in Morbius's enzyme can cure both of them. So lucky for them. Unlucky for Morbius because, their enzyme can't cure him. So it couldn't be a cultural exchange of enzymes. And anyway, that sounds disgusting. Morbius ended up becoming kind of like a anti-hero in a sense, one of the darker heroes. He teamed up with a couple of monsters of Marvel, all looking for cures for their curses or inflictions, which kind of was like a precursor to one of the other groups that kind of combined like a lot of the supernatural, darker elements of Marvel, Midnight Suns. There really wasn't much said about Morbius between like the 70s and late 80s, but then in the 90s it was kind of resurged into more of a backstory, so he had like a whole mini-series back then, and he was perfect for the time period, to be honest. That whole like dark, broody, anti-hero phase was perfect for a time for someone like Michael Morbius to step out into the light. So there's been a lot of media interest in Michael Morbius too. When Marvel's early 90s or late 90s buy-up of properties was made to be into a film, a lot of studios were interested in the story of Michael Morbius becoming on screen. In fact, there's actually a deleted scene from the first Blade movie that featured Morbius, which could have been like a combined empire. So there was some intersectional stuff back then too. He's been featured in the second Spider-Man iteration with Andrew Garfield. When you look closer, there was a scene where he was going through files and there was a Morbius file there, which leads to what universe he actually lies in. He was also featured in the Fox Kids version of Spider-Man, and of course they couldn't say I drink blood, so they said things like I must feed on plasma. And they couldn't show him biting because, again, censorship. So they showed him with these things on his hands to draw the plasma out. On the surface, that looks like, meh, that doesn't seem as scary. But if you think about it, that's actually 10 times scarier than someone drinking blood when someone like says, I need to feast, and they have like a gang of buttholes on their hands and just to suck some blood out of you. Like, that's just crazy. That is,
What's that?
Girl, that's a booty hole.
Most recently, as people see from the trailer, Jared Leto is going to be playing Morbius. So I have a feeling he's going to kill it. This comic's going to age very well. Back to you guys. Like, share, subscribe.